Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how giant companies like Apple and Coca-Cola make their billion-dollar decisions. We're talking about a tool, a secret weapon, really, that they use to decide the fate of the products you use every single day. And you know what? By the end of this, it's going to be in your toolkit too.
So, have you ever wondered why a company would suddenly kill off a product you absolutely love? Think about the Apple iPod. It felt like it was everywhere, and then poof, gone. And then on the flip side, you see them pouring billions of dollars into some super risky, totally unproven idea like a new mixed reality headset. It can seem completely random, right? Almost chaotic. But I promise you, it's not. There is a method to the madness. And the answer to that whole puzzle is a brilliantly simple but incredibly powerful framework called the BCG Growth Share Matrix. It was developed by the Boston Consulting Group way back when, and it's basically a playbook. It helps companies stop thinking about their products as just individual things and start seeing them as a whole portfolio of investments, a portfolio that needs to be managed carefully to win in the long run. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into what this matrix actually is. Then we'll meet the big players, the stars and the cash cows. After that, we'll look at the tricky ones, the question marks and the dogs. Then we'll see how it all clicks together with a deep dive into Apple. And finally, you're going to get a chance to put on your strategist hat.
All right, let's dive into part one, a strategist's secret weapon. So what exactly is this BCG matrix?
At its heart, it's actually super simple. The matrix just plots every single product a company has onto a 2x2 grid, and it does that by asking two simple but critical questions. First, the vertical axis: how fast is the entire market for this product growing? Is it exploding or is it pretty stagnant? And second, that's the horizontal axis: how strong are we in that market compared to our biggest competitor? That's called relative market share. Just by answering those two questions, a company gets this crystal clear map of its entire business. It shows them exactly where to invest their money, where to pull back and collect the profits, and maybe most importantly, where to cut their losses and walk away.
Okay, part two, stars and cash cows. Let's get to know the real power players of the portfolio. First up, we've got the stars. A star is a product that has a huge market share, and it's in a market that's growing like crazy. I mean, think about it. You are the leader in a universe that is rapidly expanding. It's a great place to be. Now, being a star sounds amazing, but it's also really demanding. Because when a market's that hot, you can bet competitors are coming at you from all sides, trying to steal your crown. So the strategy is simple, but expensive. Invest, and invest heavily. You have to pour cash into marketing, into research and development, into production, whatever it takes to defend your leadership spot. The end game? You ride that massive wave of growth until the market starts to cool down and mature. And if you play your cards right, your star eventually turns into your next big profit engine. The absolute perfect example of a star? The iPhone. In its early days, the smartphone market was just exploding, and the iPhone was the undisputed king. To stay on top, Apple had to constantly pour money in. Better cameras, faster chips, new software, huge ad campaigns, all to fight off rivals. That constant, heavy investment was the price of remaining a star. Okay, next up we have the foundation of so many successful companies, the cash cows. A cash cow also has a high market share, but here's the big difference. It's in a low-growth, totally mature market. The big war for market share is pretty much over, and you won. And because the market isn't growing like a weed anymore, it's not as tempting for new competitors to jump in. Plus, your dominant position usually means you can make the product cheaper than anyone else, so you don't need to dump tons of money into it anymore. The strategy literally becomes to milk the product for cash. You invest just enough to keep it chugging along, and it generates this incredibly reliable stream of profit. And here's the crucial part. That cash is the fuel for the rest of the company. It's what pays for the expensive stars and funds the risky bets that we're about to get to. The quintessential cash cow has got to be Coca-Cola Classic. The market for fizzy soft drinks isn't exactly a high-growth sector these days, right? But Coke's market share is just massive and unshakable. They don't need to reinvent the drink every year. They just need to keep the ads running and the cans on the shelves. And that product reliably prints billions in profit, which the Coca-Cola company then uses to buy or invest in new drinks and other ventures. It's the financial bedrock of the entire company. So let's just put them side by side to make it crystal clear. Stars are in high-growth markets. Cash cows are in low-growth markets. Stars need tons of cash to keep going. Cash cows are there to be milked for cash. And this really shows you their different jobs, right? Stars are all about future potential. They're the growth engine.
Cash cows, on the other hand, are the solid, stable foundation of the business today. Any healthy company really needs a mix of both. All right, part 3. We've met the winners. Now let's talk about the other side of the grid, the strategic gambles and the tough decisions. This brings us to the most interesting and honestly the most stressful quadrant, the question marks. A question mark is a product with a tiny market share, but it's competing in a really high-growth industry. And that creates a heck of a dilemma.
I mean, on one hand, the market is just taking off. It's full of potential. If you could just grab a bigger piece of that pie, you could have the next star on your hands. But on the other hand, you're a small player, and trying to gain ground in a hot market is unbelievably expensive. So companies face this really tough choice. Do you double down, feed this thing a ton of cash, and try to turn it into a star? Or do you look at the odds, decide it's not worth the gamble, and just get out? Its future is a total question mark.
A perfect right-now example of this is the Apple Vision Pro. The market for virtual and mixed reality is expected to be a huge growth area for years. But today, Apple's market share is tiny, and the product is a cash furnace. It requires billions in R&D just to exist. It is the ultimate question mark. Apple is making a massive bet, feeding it cash from its cash cows, hoping, praying that it becomes the next iPhone, the next star. But there is absolutely no guarantee.
And that brings us to our final quadrant, which, has the least glamorous name of them all, the dogs. A dog is a product that has low market share, and it's stuck in a low-growth market. It is in a really tough spot.
So the market isn't growing, which means there's not much opportunity, and you're not a leader in that market anyway. These products often just break even, but worse, they can become a cash drain. They tie up money, they tie up management's time, they tie up resources that could be going somewhere way more promising, like a star or a question mark. So the strategy here is usually pretty brutal and clear. Sell it, shut it down, or phase it out. It can be a hard decision, especially if it's an old, beloved product. But from a strategic point of view, it's almost always the right call.
And this takes us right back to that question we started with about the iPod. In the early 2000s, the iPod was Apple's ultimate star. It dominated a high-growth market. But then, the market for dedicated music players just shrank. The iPhone came along and basically ate its lunch. The iPod's market share collapsed in a now low-growth market. It had become a dog. And so, Apple made the tough but strategically smart decision to finally phase it out and put those resources into its current stars and its future question marks. Okay, part 4, our case study on Apple. Let's put all these pieces together. This, right here, is the aha moment. Just look at this. The whole strategy right there on one slide. Up in the top left, you've got the stars, the iPhone and Apple's booming services division. They're the leaders in high-growth areas, and they need a ton of investment. So where does that money come from? Look down to the bottom left, the cash cow. MacBooks. In the mature, slow-growing PC market, they have a strong, profitable share. That predictable cash gets funneled right up to the top right, to the question mark, the Apple Vision Pro, that big, expensive bet on the future. And finally, in the bottom right, you have the dog, the now-retired iPod. See, it's not just a random collection of gadgets. It's a balanced, functioning ecosystem where each part has a job to do. But here's what's so critical to get. A product doesn't just stay in one box its whole life. It goes on a journey. And this slide shows that perfectly with the iPod. It started its life as a question mark, a risky bet. Then it exploded into a star, basically defining an entire market. For a little while, as the market matured, you could even argue it was a cash cow. And then finally, as technology moved on, it became a dog. This life cycle, this journey, is what strategists are constantly watching. They're always asking, okay, where are our products today, and where are they headed tomorrow? Okay, last part. Putting the matrix to work. We've seen how the pros do it, now it's your turn to think like a strategist.
So here's the thing. This framework isn't just for textbooks. It's a lens you can apply to any business you see. Let's end with a little thought experiment. Think about Tesla's Cybertruck. Where would you put it on the BCG Matrix right now? Okay, so is the electric truck market a high-growth market? Oh yeah, absolutely. But what about Tesla's relative market share in that space? With giants like Ford and Rivian already there, is Tesla's share high or low? It's a classic question mark, isn't it? A cash-hungry product in a high-growth market with a really uncertain future share. The BCG Matrix gives you the language and the logic to analyze that decision and debate what comes next. And that right there is a really powerful tool to have.